Good evening, Tallahassee. This is student meteorologist Nico Sapienza, and we have a lot to talk about tonight. But first, we're going to take a look at a nice sunset at Doak Campbell Stadium. Well, it's still in the 80s at 6 o'clock in the evening. We did hit 88 degrees today, so if you were out and about, you know it was warm. We're still in the 80s area-wide unless you get closer to the coast, and you have a little bit of that sea breeze affecting you. So you're in the mid-70s. Apalachicola at 73 is our coolest spot right now. As we look at the northern part of the country, they have much different weather than us, with a snowstorm forecast for this week, especially as we go into Friday, the same system that we're watching here for severe weather. So we do have some showers possible and warm temperatures. Boston's going to see a decent snowfall, and then tomorrow is March 1st. March tends to be one of the busiest months for severe weather in the southeast, and we may have to look out for severe weather on Friday, and we're going to talk about some severe weather tips. All this and more tonight on FSU Weather.
Thank you for that overview, Nico, and hello, I'm student meteorologist Chandler Pruitt. Thank you for watching tonight's Tuesday edition of FSU Weather. So the theme of today's show is mostly about severe weather. We have a lot in store for you to cover, especially with severe weather that's recently happened in Oklahoma. We're kind of heightened about our awareness with possible severe weather here in the southeast in the next upcoming days. We also talk about some record-breaking temperatures today. It's been quite hot, and that, of course, will act as some fuel as that cold front reaches us in later on this week, to Thursday into Friday. So we'll be talking more about the timing and all that of that front. We'll also be highlighting some other interesting weather. Of course, the California region is still seeing some of that snow and some blizzard warnings. We'll also cover some Midwest snow as well. We'll also highlight our friends in Oxford, Mississippi, and talk about their little town and what they can expect also for their severe weather threat. But for now, we'll take things back to Tallahassee, and Aaron will cover our local forecast.
Thanks, Chandler. It is still a toasty 81 degrees and sunny out here across Tallahassee with that big ball of butter there in the background behind Doak Campbell Stadium there. That will eventually set behind the stadium here in the next few minutes or so with that southwesterly wind at 16 miles per hour. So hold on to your hats there. It is still a windy one. So if that was warm enough, this is even warmer here. 88 degrees was our actual high temperature here today across the Big Bend, and that's just a scorcher. And we're still in February. Granted, it's the last day of February, but it's still February, folks. So really toasty here this afternoon across much of the Big Bend. And we're actually just shy of 1 degree off the record there set back in 1948 of 89 degrees. So overall sitting pretty warm here across much of the area. So Tallahassee sitting right now at 80 degrees across this hour. Sumatra 76, a little bit cooler down towards the coastline where you have that sea breeze action here. And quick little tidbit here, you can actually see where, or the direction of the wind, because over here across Tallahassee where you have the winds are blowing parallel to the coast here across the Forgotten Coast, it's still sitting close to 80, but over here it's 75 in St. Mark's and 77 further in Madison, so that sea breeze pushed further inland towards the border there with Georgia. And it actually comes up quite nicely here on the dew point, or the dew point temperatures there, with that more saturated dew point temperatures here at St. Mark's, Perry in the 70s near 60 there, and then over in Tallahassee sitting more, a little bit drier perhaps, down over to about the middle 60s. And then for our wind speeds here, we have those winds howling out of the southwest here. So Panama City 12 miles per hour, Blountstown 11, and then Sop-Choppy down also around 11 miles per hour at this current hour. So we are staying pretty dry on radar here. We do have a little bit of backscattering perhaps, at least for places in Calhoun County, over towards Franklin County perhaps, with a little bit of that dry air mixing in too. And then for tonight's low temperatures, we're going to only go down to 68 degrees. This is almost close actually to our average high temperature this time of year, up in the lower 70s. So we are sitting really muggy tonight. We will sit very muggy tonight with those temperatures up near the 70-degree mark, especially down towards the coast. And tomorrow's highs will also feature those temperatures going up into the middle 80s once more. We might perhaps be a couple degrees warmer than this, perhaps, like we were today, but we'll have to see, of course, when the actual data comes in tomorrow afternoon. But coastline a little bit chillier, perhaps near 76, where we have that marine layer effect off Appalachia Bay. So as for our future radar, we will see perhaps a few scattered showers or so in the morning hours, or some fog too. And those will begin to transition to more sunshine. They'll come out probably by the later afternoon. And then on your day on Thursday, we'll also continue on with those cloud cover and perhaps some showers throughout much of the afternoon. So our marine forecast, we do have, at least currently across the water, it is 77 degrees with those winds out of the south at about 10 knots or so, 2 feet, seas around 2 feet, and then a UV index of about 4 there on the UV index scale. And as for the rest of the week here, we will expect those temperatures to take kind of a roller coaster dive there, at least over the course of this week and then into next week. But Nico, how do you think the temperature is actually going to play out for the rest of the state?
Well, it looks like Florida as a whole is going to stay pretty warm. As you can look at some Florida cameras right now, in the 80s at UCF in Orlando, in the 80s in Miami at St. Augustine, which is my hometown, is also in the 80s at 82. And Tampa, you had the sea breeze a little bit today with a westerly wind, so you've cooled off to 76, but you were also in the 80s for a high today. As you look at your temperatures, though, you can easily see how warm Florida is. The only parts of Florida right now that are in the 70s are the areas that have been affected by the sea breeze. Anywhere who hasn't gotten the sea breeze yet, you're in the 80s. Look at West Palm Beach on the East Coast. You're at 85 degrees right now. That is very, very warm air for this time of the evening in the month of February. And as you look at your dew points, we've got a decent amount of moisture too, not quite to summer-like dew points, but it's getting there when we're at 65-degree dew point in Tallahassee and a 64-degree dew point in Jacksonville. As you get closer to the coast, Pensacola, your dew point is at 69 degrees. You're almost in a dew point in the 70s, which is very muggy. As we take a look at your satellite and radar, we don't have much of anything over Florida at all, and it's going to stay that way except for a few scattered showers in the western Florida panhandle over the next couple days. As we could see some clouds, maybe some fog tonight possible, probably not as much as last week due to the wind, and then here's your scattered showers. As you take a look Friday morning, that's the system we're going to have to watch later this week on Friday and into Saturday for parts of the peninsula. As you look at your forecast for Miami, 83 tomorrow, 82 on Thursday, and then on Friday you have the windy conditions ahead of the cold front, but it's not going to affect you at all. You're at 84 degrees on Friday. As you have Universal's Mardi Gras party, I don't know why that's tonight. This should have been last week, but it is going to be 81 degrees tonight if you're going to be at Universal. Tampa, you're going to have the same type of story, 84, 85, 85, warm conditions, and it gets breezy ahead of the front on Friday. So pretty much statewide, if you're going to be out and about on Friday, you're going to have to deal with some breezy conditions. So definitely bring any loose items inside ahead of the storm front on Friday. As we look at Jacksonville, you have even warmer conditions because you're less affected by the sea breeze with a westerly wind. Look at Friday. We may hit 90 degrees on Friday with a high forecast 89, and the storm's not forecast to hit Jacksonville until overnight on Friday. As we look at Pensacola, you're going to get affected by the storms a little earlier. You may see some on Thursday. Your highest chance of severe weather, though, with the system is going to be Friday morning. But look at your low on Friday morning, 71 degrees for a low. As we look at tomorrow's high temperatures, we're in the mid-80s statewide, 88 in Orlando. That is very, very warm conditions. So you definitely need to be prepared for that if you are going to be out and about across the state. But now I'm going to pass things off to Sarah Lynn.
Thank you. Yes, and I was hoping for the sake of our southeastern friends that they would be seeing some cooler conditions than we're seeing here, but spoiler alert, they are not. These conditions that we're seeing in Tallahassee are persisting over the entire southeast, these abnormally warm temperatures for our last day of meteorological winter. We can't believe the amount of temperatures that we're seeing, but at least it's making for some gorgeous views. They've got a little bit cloudy. I think Blacksburg is taking the cake on that sunset. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous day in Blacksburg, Virginia. Everywhere else is a little overcast, but seeing those clear conditions and those warm conditions, as you can tell by our map, it's just red across the board. High 70s, low 80s. About 76 in Atlanta, but down in Miami, 83 degrees, and we're even seeing high 70s in Arkansas. This time of year is not normal to see those high temperatures in these high dew points as well. Here on the coast, the closer you get to the water, we're going to have those humid conditions, getting a little bit drier up in Arkansas and Tennessee. You're seeing the dew points down in the 30s. They're having a little bit drier on the surface, but here in Tallahassee, about 65 on the dew point. That's still pretty muggy, and I know we all want a little bit drier, But our upper water vapor is showing it's pretty dry. That's giving us those clear skies, and there's no really precipitation or clouds to see in the upper levels. And that's why we're seeing pretty, the black and the gray is what's showing us the dry with a little bit of moisture down over the Gulf of Mexico, but nothing that we're going to be seeing here in Tallahassee with these clear conditions, at least for today. But going into radar for the next couple of days, we will be seeing some rain, thank God. This current radar right now is just, there's nothing going on for the entire southeast, maybe some interference, but other than that, we're not really seeing anything, even on the first precipitation, but that will be changing here in the next couple of days. As you see on our future radar, they're going to be getting some storms over Arkansas and Tennessee. The severe weather, actually, where they're going to be seeing rolling in Thursday and Friday, and we will be seeing some storms as well on Friday. But they're going to be getting some more severe than we will be getting here. Tomorrow's high temperatures, they're seeing just the same that we've been seeing the last couple of days, these abnormally high 80s temperatures. I know we're all kind of looking for that reprieve, but not really coming that we're going to be seeing, unfortunately. But with this last day of meteorological winter, maybe we'll be getting some average temperatures coming in the following weeks in time for spring break. But we will be seeing pretty high, that cold front that's coming through most of the southeast is going to help them out a little bit with their temperatures, but not really going to be affecting us here down in Florida with those red hot temperatures. Hopefully some winds might be able to cool us down a little bit, but nothing that I think is going to be impacting us. Tonight's temperatures, it'll be a pretty nice night, about 68 here in Tallahassee and 67 in Miami. A little bit of a reprieve from the hot sun and the hot temperatures that we've been seeing during the day, but thank God we get a little bit of a reprieve. And SPC outlook, there's some severe weather heading into the area for Tennessee and all that, but I will pass it off to Chandler with a look at the national.
That's right. Let's cover some more broad scale views. By first starting off with the current temperatures across the nation, pretty much we can start off with saying that we have cooler weather off into the west and warmer weather off to the east, but much warmer weather here in the southeast, like Sarah Lynn was mentioning. Over in the west, though, well below average, with several places reaching that 39 degrees as their high for today. Quite cool compared to what we are, which we're near that May, June weather. They're still in January, February weather. Surface map shows, again, pretty active frontal systems out into the west. And we also have this low pressure system that will bring some of that severe weather come in the next few days. We also have this stationary front that has a few clouds sticking around in the North Gulf Coast area, but no weather attached with it, really. It's just some clouds for the most part. For those dew points, again, we can really spot that cold front and that dry line, seeing that there's much drier conditions off to the west and West Texas, but much more moist conditions into the east, especially when you look at San Antonio at 53 and 26 at Dallas-Fort Worth. So again, quite a staggering difference between the west and the much more humid east. And with that drier conditions off to the west, we also have fire weather in store for parts of Texas, New Mexico, and even Oklahoma. We have a critical risk for fire conditions. This involves both dry conditions, but also high winds. We've seen a lot of strong winds off the back of these fronts the last few weeks, and that's pretty much going to stay the same for them. They're currently experiencing some stronger winds, and they'll continue to see those winds persist over the next few hours and the next couple days, and that will, of course, help elevate that risk for fire weather. Also, when we look across the nation, we see that there's some disturbance up to the Midwest. Some of that rain could be used down into Texas, where they're currently in a drought and they're under that those bad fire weather conditions. But right now we actually see some snow pretty much across Iowa that's making its way towards Minneapolis. We also see a decent amount of activity over here in the West Coast, and we still see some snow over in the East Coast, where Massachusetts actually saw a decent amount of snow accumulate, and they'll continue to see a little bit more. We have 9 inches of snow in Fargo, but then we go all the way to Bear Valley at 27. And then, like I mentioned, over there in the New England states, they've been seeing a couple inches. Even Bangor in Maine actually saw over half a foot. As for those winter weather alerts, we still see a blizzard warning all the way into the Sierra Nevada mountains, and we still see a decent amount of winter storm warnings across the region and even up into Bismarck, North Dakota. But we also have winter weather advisory and a winter storm warning even in New England, over in New Hampshire and Maine. As for the Boston College cam that we have, you can actually see a little bit of snow on the ground just off to the distance. We actually were just covering this a moment ago, but it's hard to see the snow that's on the roof because of the dark conditions. As for the Storm Prediction Center, they also have a severe weather threat, a 2 out of 5 risk for severe weather tomorrow, and then a 3 out of 5 on Thursday. We'll have to cover that, and also there's going to be a risk come Friday as well. For tonight's lows, though, again, going to be cool off to the west and warm off to the east. We will stay quite warm in the east, staying actually near what we should be for our high temperatures. As for our highs tomorrow, we'll definitely reach into the 80s in the southeast, but over in the west coast, they might not even reach out of the 40s in some places like Salt Lake City. But for now, we'll toss things over to the desk to talk more about severe weather, which comes with the spring weather, right?
That's true. Of course, was it spring flowers bring May? I forgot what the saying is, but the
Spring
showers, right?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. We got
Right.
it.
So, but of course, with that too, those spring showers also comes the chance of some severe weather too. So we'll actually talk about, of course, the risk of severe weather. As of course, we do have one risk here over the next several days or so across the southeast, but the peak season here at least tends to be in March, April, and May, at least primarily across the southeast, with the chance of, at least the greatest chance of severe weather.
And the severe thunderstorms is defined as quarter-size hail or larger or wind gusts greater than 58 miles per hour. So when you get those severe thunderstorm alerts on your phone from FSU, that's what that means, is it's usually those wind gusts that is prompting those kind of alerts.
That's right, not just tornadoes you have to look out for. But 2021 also produced 881 tornado injuries and 155 high wind and thunderstorm injuries. So again, it comes down to not just the tornadoes you have to look out for, but also wind gusts can really exceed, especially those straight line winds that can come out of these nasty thunderstorms from time to time.
Yeah, we get some pretty significant damage here in Tallahassee from those severe winds and downed trees and stuff like that. It's not just rain and flooding as well, and that we wanted to discuss assessing your own risk, with the difference between a watch and a warning. A watch is when there's favorable conditions for severe weather to occur, but it doesn't mean it is necessarily happening at the current time.
That's right, and a warning is the one that the more serious one, where that means that you actually have the ingredients in place to perhaps produce a tornado there. It's on, perhaps could be on the ground, or most of the time it's radar indicated, but you want to make sure you go to that lowest part of your building or that structure, preferably an interior room.
Of course, and again, it's so important that as soon as you get any kind of FSU alert, you seek shelter, get out of a mobile home, and in the worst case scenario, hide inside your vehicle if there's hail or anything that could be dangerous for you.
That's right, but now we'll turn things over to talk more about Mississippi, and specifically Oxford. So Chandler, what's interesting about Oxford, Mississippi?
Well, besides the fact that they do see some of those tornadoes, there's a few other things we'll talk about. So let's travel to Oxford, Mississippi. Some fun facts before we get into the severe weather portion of the segment. Oxford, Mississippi is home of University of Mississippi, or Ole Miss as most of us call it. Vaught Hemingway Stadium actually can hold over double the population of Oxford, so you can tell that it kind of gathers a lot of the outside communities together on Saturdays. St. Louis and New Orleans are both about 5 hours and 30 minutes away from Oxford as well, so it's a little bit out of the way, a little bit in the middle of nowhere, but that's kind of just how I like it, you know, small town USA, right? 77 right now is the current conditions, sunny with winds out of the south at 8 miles per hour, so pretty enjoyable weather, although this is much more like March, maybe even April weather than it is February weather, although we are getting ready to approach March, so I guess you can call that a technicality. As for those current temperatures across the region, we still see pretty much 70s. We have 71 in Tunica and 78 in Tupelo, but pretty much warm, a little bit unseasonably warm, as we've been mentioning with the southeast. It's been quite warm here. For that satellite and radar, nice and clear conditions for now. However, that will change quite quickly. We'll actually talk about that here in a second. But low temperatures across the area, they'll get down into the low 60s, maybe in 59 as well. So we'll see pretty warm conditions still, because usually we're expecting closer to 50 degrees for North Mississippi during this time of year. As for that severe weather risk, like I was mentioning, 3 out of 5 risk for severe weather, and that will include severe thunderstorm warnings, like what Aaron and Sarah Lynn mentioned. We'll see possibly some hail and damaging winds with those severe thunderstorms. Also could see some tornadoes just from those supercells, those discrete supercells we'll actually highlight here in a second on the radar. But whenever we have these systems that produce these individual storms, they have a tendency to produce really nasty tornadoes. But then we also have a risk for some winds as well, just with this frontal system, as it is going to be quite strong because of that temperature gradient, that moisture gradient. It's pretty much going to be a very strong wind event as well as a tornadic event as well. For that future radar, shows that we start to see some clouds roll in Wednesday afternoon, but by Wednesday night, we start to see some severe storms start to line up across northern Mississippi. And they'll roll through, but we'll continue to see showers, individual storms across North Mississippi as well throughout most of Thursday and even into Friday, exiting the area by about Friday near noon. So again, it's going to be quite rainy and stormy across the area for the next 3 days. 77 on Wednesday, but again, stormy, so you really can't enjoy that weather. And then again, stormy on Thursday and Friday, so make sure you stay weather aware over the next 3 days if you live in Oxford.
That's right. If only we can keep that rain over there, right? We not bring it here on Friday and on Thursday, unfortunately, here across the area. But of course, all the sunny and dry weather has to eventually end, right? But anyways, we will take things back closer to home here. So on Landa's screen, it is currently 80 degrees. So still a scorcher out there with those sunny conditions and those winds out of the southwest at 12 miles an hour. If you are out at the Sportsplex here, you see that nice sunset there in the background with that nice yellow pinkish color there, that hue there on the horizon there. It is currently 81 degrees still, so still very warm, plenty warm here across much of Tallahassee. And for tonight's forecast, if you're heading out tonight, perhaps to College Town, it'll go down to 67 degrees, so you probably won't need that jacket whatsoever. And it's hard to believe we're in February, right? We're approaching March here, but we're still in February. So mostly cloudy conditions tonight with the winds out of the southwest. So winds will actually die down a little bit tonight and perhaps make things a little bit more neater tonight. But if you're heading out and taking your telescope out tonight, you will see a 64.9% waxing gibbous out there if you are looking out, pointing your telescope up at the moon there with those fair conditions. Perhaps you might have to watch some of those cloud cover. And then that late night drive forecast, also seeing those temperatures for the most part wiggling around 70 degrees or so. So it's still going to pretty much remain the same as we continue on throughout the night. And if you are flying out of TLH here right now, actually, it is currently 81 degrees with no delays are expected here, at least at this hour. And if you're walking your dog there, like that pooch in the background, one of our producers' pooches there, it is currently, or I should say, it will rise from about the upper 60s into the low to mid 70s by the time we get into our afternoon hour by tomorrow. And as for your beach forecast, we also do expect those temperatures to remain, for the most part, around 77 degrees, with the water temperature actually coming up pretty far here over the past week or so, up to 71 degrees now. So we are starting to begin the warm-up trend here with the water, and of course that's also further enhanced with those record high temperatures we've been seeing. And the winds out of the south at 9, UV index at 4, so make sure you do apply some sunscreen and also surf around 2 feet. And if you are heading out to the baseball game here on Wednesday, tomorrow at Dick Howser Stadium, we're versing USF here. And we'll see those temperatures for the most part dropping down into the middle 70s by the time we get out to the nighttime, 9 p.m. hour or so. And also for our softball game here at Joanne Graff Field versus UMass at Colgate there. We also at 2 p.m. we'll start those temperatures around 78 or so, and then it'll gradually drop to the lower 70s as we progress throughout much of the afternoon into the evening. And as for your Tallahassee 4-day outlook here, we continue with those warm temperatures through about Thursday. Friday, unfortunately, we have those stormy conditions that will probably make their way through the Big Bend area. And then, wow, what a cold front, 79 degrees. If only it can drop more than that, right? It's still above average this time of year, but unfortunately, we do have to deal with this, of course, over the next several days or so as we begin to perhaps dry out a bit as we get into the weekend. But Sarah Lynn, are you excited for the weekend with that dry up?
Oh, I'm always excited for some warm weather. I know we talk a lot about how we aren't really excited for these hot temperatures, but we got to enjoy it while we can. Go to the pool, go outside. It'll be a beautiful weekend. As you can see, but this gorgeous sunset over Doak Campbell Stadium, we have, if you're outside, take a look. It's going to be a gorgeous night. It might be a little toasty for some people, but I'm a native Floridian. I think it's pretty okay. It's about 81 degrees and sunny with a pretty significant wind out of the southwest at 16 miles an hour. Our current temperatures, again, we've been talking about it this whole show. You're not going to need a jacket anytime soon. Maybe a rain jacket coming Friday, but we got these high 70s and mid 80s, 80 degrees here in Tallahassee with a little bit cooler down by the coast in St. Mark's at 75 degrees. Our dew points are getting pretty humid around around the Big Bend area, but we've got about a 69 dew point, 71 in St. Mark's, but seeing a 66 in Monticello. We are seeing these the moister dew points for this area, and hopefully we will be drying up a little bit sometime soon. Current radar is really only showing some interference over in Liberty County. That is likely some smoke interference from a prescribed burn, less than it being actual precipitation. Tonight's lows, it should be this night if you want to get outside and walk around. It'll be 68 here in Tallahassee, high 60s for the entire area. Maybe a tiny bit cooler down at the coast with that sea breeze, but tomorrow's high temperatures are getting right back up into the 80s. Not going to be enjoying those 60-degree temperatures for very long. 84 here in Tallahassee, a tiny bit of cool down near Perry, right on the coast with that sea breeze, giving them a little bit of reprieve from the 80-degree temperatures, but pretty mid-80s for the entire coast before we start getting these storms coming in the next couple of days. Showing that future radar with a lot of cloud cover and some precipitation starting on Thursday, so make sure that you're prepared for that. Make sure you bring your umbrella and your rain jacket and anything you need to do to stay dry as we head, into Thursday and Friday. For our early, 11 a.m., it's about 77, and then jumping back into the 80 degrees. It'll be mostly cloudy with a 20% chance of rain, so nothing you really need to be worried about, but make sure to keep an eye on your phone to make sure there's any kind of weather that we need to be worried about. Marine forecasts, we're seeing 70-degree temperatures in our 70s. It'll be a gorgeous weekend if you want to go out and hit the beach. 70 degrees, sunny. Make sure you wear your sunscreen, and we'll pass it back to Chandler and Nico at the desk to close us out.
Yes, thank you, Sarah Lynn. We're definitely going to have to be watchful as we go into Friday. We do need to make sure that we have our phones on, have your notifications turned on, do not silence them, and make sure you have your sound high up so that way if we do get a tornado warning, you'd know about it.
That's right, yeah. I mean, this is kind of an interesting start to our March. Usually we start to see some of that severe weather in March, but we're really seeing it quite early here in the southeast. And it's been quite interesting, actually, when we look at some of the severe weather that just broke out recently in Oklahoma. A decent amount of people were caught off guard. And it's just it's a story for us to learn some lessons from, just so that we here in Tallahassee can be more prepared come this Friday and the rest of the severe weather season.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Luckily, this event appears to be hitting during the daytime, but especially as we do end up getting some nocturnal events like what they saw in Oklahoma on Sunday, those ones tend to catch people off guard because they think that they can't get severe weather at night because it's not as warm, and then they can tend to be asleep and not looking at their phones.
But with that, follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/FSUweather.
You can always like us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/FSUweather.
You also watch us live on YouTube if you're not already. Look us up at youtube.com/FSUweather.
You can always follow us on Instagram at FSUweather and send us pictures. If you get any pictures on Friday, definitely send them to us from a safe place. We'd love to see that.
Also, look us up on TikTok at FSUweather as well. But for now, we'll toss things back over to the wall for our 7-day look.